there YouTube, Heir of Carthage here, bringing you the first battle on what I'm calling my Total War Eras video. I decided that I wanted to show you every Total War game since Rome Total War, which is what I have. So I'll be showing you a battle from every Total War game I have, so we'll go from Rome to Medieval 2, to Empire Total War, to Napoleon, to Shogun. So I'm playing as Carthage. I have to play as Carthage, and I'm trying to bring a slightly more feasible army, but of course, just due to the way that Rome Total War is set up, they make that nearly impossible to pull off unless you make your opponent do the same thing, which I hate because it takes a long time, and then a lot of people don't want to play those rules. They just want to bring their urban cohorts. And I guess that's fine. They can bring urbans, as there's pretty much standard. You know what I think's funny, though? CWB rules are pretty good for the most part. But I think what cracks me up is that elephants are considered like overpowered and you can't bring them as part of CWB, but like urban cohorts aren't. Someone tell me which unit is more valuable for the money. Elephants, easy to rout with flaming archers. Urban cohorts, not so much. It pretty much takes an act of God to rout those guys, unless you're using your own urban cohorts, not to mention the fact that they're completely historically inaccurate. So I guess I like Rome Total War. It's what really got me into the Total War series. But one of the reasons a lot of you ask me, like, Air, how come you always play Shogun nowadays? You never played Rome. It's because Rome is pretty well flawed compared to Shogun. I love the time period. In fact, I like it better than the Shogun 2 time period. But what Shogun 2 has is, and I know some of you are going to freak out when you hear this, it has better unit balance. It really does. The factions are better balanced against each other, and then the Avatar Conquest has a little bit more interesting thing to me. Now, I know there's a slight difference there because Shogun 2 is contained completely within Japan, and so that means that all the units are going to be pretty similar, whereas the Rome Total War is based in an ancient, world where each faction fought very differently. It's true that they fought very differently, and some were probably just flat out better than others, but if Rome had a little bit more unit balance, see, like, the problem is that pretty much when you come to an online battle, you kind of almost have to use the best units, or else you're going to get beaten, because the other units are so completely inferior and worthless. And so that's the kind of stuff I wish they'd fix, where you can have a little bit of unit variety, because really the only thing you can use in competitive multiplayer is Rome, and or you can be very good with one of the Phalanx factions, which is pretty much limited to Carthage, Macedon, and the Greeks. The other Phalanx factions kind of suck. Now, you can win with some of the Eastern factions by using chariots and horse archers and all that other kind of stuff, but anyway, it's too complicated and kind of stupid in my opinion. So that's why I don't play Rome Total War as much anymore, just because the game mechanics are old, the graphics are old. I love the time period. The balancing kind of sucks in my opinion, now that I'm used to Shogun 2. But, oh well, I like the game, and I'm glad to bring you this battle. So I've got 2 Sacred Band Cav, both gold. I have 2 Libyan Spearmen. My center is consisting of Iberian infantry. You're going to see why I brought these guys. My flanks, I have 3 gold Polani infantry, 2 more on this flank. I have 2 Balearic Slingers in the center, 2 regular Slingers on the flanks, and I have 3 Long Shield gold hidden in these woods. My opponent is playing as the Seleucids. He's got 2 units of gold cataphracts there. He's got 6 units of these Silver Shield Legionnaires, who are very good Legionnaires, probably second only to the Roman urban cohorts. Very tough unit. There were some of these guys that existed historically. I'm not sure how effective they were, but just for the sake of unit diversity, these guys kind of make the Seleucids fun, so you certainly won't see me complaining when someone brings these guys. I actually think they're better than the Silver Shield Pikemen as far as pound-for-pound infantry usage. Now, I haven't played Rome Total War in quite a long time. I've only played a few battles recently, just trying to get the hang of it. That's another reason why I don't like playing it, is because the controls kind of suck compared to Shogun. So yeah, there's a whole lot of reasons why Rome Total War kind of irritates me now, but again, I do like it, and I'll show you some videos of it from time to time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to intercept his Silver Shield Legionnaires with my Iberians. I fully expect them to rout, but this is going to demonstrate why the unit balancing is so just horribly, terribly awful. So watch how quickly my Iberians rout. I charge forward, and granted these guys aren't supposed to be like the world's greatest, but my guys are going to rout. Right there, look, bam, broken. That was like, what, 5 seconds? Then they rout, then this unit's going to rout. I mean, they all just start chain routing, and Polani infantry really aren't a whole lot better. But the whole idea of that was to get my opponent turned, and now you can see that much like at Cannae, although Hannibal's infantry held the line, mine routed, but I do have my Libyan Spearmen here to back up, and so now my opponent's completely surrounded. And so that was the whole idea of my Iberian infantry, was to get my opponent surrounded. I go ahead and turn on the skirmishing feature of my Balearic slingers and run them away, so that these Silver Shield Legionnaires, again, are going to be surrounded and wasting their time chasing. But I do need to act fast. I've started a cavalry fight over here that I need to win. I have to get my pointy infantry in here, and I did. And my general's unit is going to get slammed there. It's an absolute surprise they didn't rout, because, again, the only thing probably keeping this thing in the fight is the fact that my general's there. It's a good thing I had my general there, else they would have routed and probably caused a chain rout amongst the rest of my men. So my slingers are flinging stones in, and now I'm going to come and complete the total envelopment on my opponent. Some of his archers came back. Well, not all of his archers routed. I only routed one of his units. So here's my pointy, lining up, getting ready for a complete envelopment, as I said. Some of my Iberian infantry came back from routing. So I'm just trying to get ready for a huge big encirclement here. I want the Seleucids to get completely surrounded. You can see my slingers mowing these guys down. Here comes a long shield, hammer and anvil. Not going to be real effective against an infantry unit as heavy as these silver shields. So yep, there's my pointy. Check this out. So much in the fashion of Hannibal, here comes my troops for a complete and total encirclement. And then my long shield cav is going to come crashing in here also. So this is going to be one giant Seleucid sandwich. But you can see that I actually lost more cavalry than he did infantry, just because these guys are technically light cavalry. I don't really like how effective heavy infantry without a spear is versus cavalry, because they would actually be extremely ineffective versus cavalry, no matter how heavy it was, just because of their inability to fight it, unless they were in a very dense block formation, and then the cavalry wouldn't be able to do much. So I saw a whole bunch more cataphracts come out of hiding, 3 more to be precise. There goes the enemy general. So I decided to try and bog them down with my light cav for just a few seconds so that I could finish off his infantry, because if I can finish off his infantry, this fight is over. And indeed, these guys are finished, and they're being slaughtered. They cannot escape. So, kind of also like Cannae, I end up completely slaughtering these guys. They shouldn't have dressed up like Romans, because it just makes my Carthaginians feel more confident. So, yep. Slightly Hannibalic tactics here. Slightly modified, of course, into Heir's own fashion. But it worked out well. You'll also notice I had the rain on in case my opponent came archer heavy, because for some stupid reason Carthage can't field archers. As if they couldn't hire some mercenaries, since that's what they did. But again, that's just another one of my many complaints about Rome. Check out these Iberians getting tossed by cataphracts. Now you won't see any complaint there, because cataphracts would have absolutely pwned that kind of infantry. I am bringing up some Libyan spearmen, though, to try and get into these cataphracts. And I've got more Iberian infantry. This is just like a bog-down maneuver while I try and get spears in here. Libyan spearmen are just medium spears, though, but they will be more effective. Whoa, that was sweet. Yeah, cataphracts are cool units, and they're powerful, and rightly so. That's pretty historical for those guys to be powerful. However, they do tire out easy, which would also probably be quite likely, just because of all the armor they're carrying. So my opponent's cataphracts rout. He does have silver shields who have come back from routing, though. I'm reforming my troops, trying to set up kind of some kind of line. I didn't even see these silver shields. They must have hidden in the woods when they came back from routing. My slingers are over here whipping out some swift death to these silver shields who came back from routing. And all my missile units definitely came in handy. You don't want to come too missile light with Carthage and get too stuck on rushing. It is fun to rush with Carthage, but you're more likely to take Roman Pilla and stuff like that. And again, that's why I charge my Iberians, because they would absorb any Pilla or keep them from throwing the Pilla, and that would save my pointy infantry and allow them to actually have a fighting chance. See my slingers rout these guys out. I'm guessing this general unit is going to start getting peppered now too. My fodder units are routing, which is okay. That's all they are, is fodder units at this point. I'm now bringing up my pointy infantry. These guys are going to get slammed. I didn't quite get them into phalanx, but they do have a bonus versus cavalry, so it makes them a little harder to break. Not be it too much, though, because pointy infantry are still a little bit weak. Those guys are a very good representation, in my opinion, though, of Hannibal's African heavy infantry. I like the shield they carry. That shield would probably represent what his infantry troops looked like after they had rearmed themselves with Roman weapons. They probably would have been just fighting in the complete Roman manner, but before that manner they did fight with spears in a more phalanx type situation. However, there was an argument as to whether their phalanx was more Alexandrian or more Greek in nature, or, yeah, Greek phalanx in nature. Still an argument amongst historians. Anyway, stay tuned. The Medieval 2 video is coming up. It's probably one of the only ones you'll ever see from me, because I really hate that game. But in any case, like I said, I want to make you all happy and show you some different Total Wars, so stay tuned. Enjoy it. Hey there YouTube, Heir of Carthage here, going to continue my Total War era video here where I'm going to try and bring you some footage from all the Total War games that I own, starting with Rome Total War. So here we are on Medieval 2 Total War. Yay! If by yay I mean boo, because this is definitely Heir's least favorite. I am commanding the forces of Portugal, my opponent has chosen to command Spain. And the graphics on this game are pretty good, I think, considering the age. But they're pretty dated, considering Shogun 2, of course. Of course, I have the graphic settings jacked all the way up, because my computer can easily handle it, which is nice, because I think it makes the game look as good as possible. So, I didn't really know what kind of armies were good. The only reason I even chose Portugal is because I was playing against Spain, and I thought that'd be fun. I believe they were kind of rivals. So I have 3 units of peasant archers up front, 2 units of Pavis crossbowmen, those guys looked like they were good, and then I have 4 units of these elite pikemen, aventuros, or yeah, I don't really know how to speak Portuguese. Yeah, so I got 4 of them, and then I have 4 units of these dismounted conquistadores, so they're my heavy infantry, and my cavalry consists of 3 units of these genets, and these guys are kind of like old ancient cav, you know, they're javelin throwing, very light, swift cavalry, and those are going to be distraction force. Then I've got 3 units of Knights of Santiago. These are my heavy cavalry. And then I've got my general, who I'm guessing is one of these fellows right here, probably this one. He looks like he's dressed different, but then a couple of them do, so I'm not really sure which one's the general, and I don't really care. In any case, the battle should be starting soon. I don't know how to use, the game settings too well. So here's my opponent's Spanish army. Let's see what he's brought. He's got feudal knights, mailed knights, looks like Knights of Santiago, and more feudal knights. So he's got 4 heavy cav units. Let's take a look at his flank. Looks like he's got some swordsman militia, 3 dismounted conquistadors. Up the center, he's got 4 units of dismounted chivalric knights, and then he's got the same thing on this flank as I called out on the other flank. Well, actually, that's a dismounted feudal knight, dismounted conquistador, and a sword militia. So my missile units are going to open fire. You can see my Pavis crossbowmen reloading here. It's kind of cool how they kneel down. I bet the shields then help cover them from incoming archer fire. These guys are very effective versus armor. And you can see that they have caused some pretty stout damage to these feudal knights. They are all set to skirmish. I kind of want my archers to just run away. I'm expecting these guys to run away as well, though they look like they're going to stand their ground. Of course, they look to be a little more well-armored than my other archers. I thought they were going to run away. They did over here. Here I brought my my pikes up front. I probably should have had these guys in some kind of pike formation, but again, these guys are actually, these are my dismounted conquistadors, sorry. I brought them up front. My pikes stayed to the rear. I was going to use them to protect against cavalry charges. My pikes on the flank, though, are taking up the fight against the sword troops. My genets are out here skirmishing with this heavy cav. And this is exactly why I brought these guys, because this heavy cav wouldn't be able to catch me, and I could simply harass them and keep them from taking part in the fight. And they are doing their job quite well. I think 1 unit of my genets ends up getting caught out here just because the skirmish thing took them to the edge of the map. But again, they're still distracting a heavy cav unit, which is very much worth it, as I seem to do terrible in a heavy cav on heavy cav engagement every time I play this game. I guess that I don't very well understand the types of settings. Anyway, you can see my genets are ripping those guys up. My archers all skirmish back here, which was just taking some of his units away from the main front. Again, fine with me. You can see that my heavy cav has engaged his heavy cav right here. Again, these engagements don't usually go well for me. I didn't do a good job out flanking. But I do have archers nearby that I'm going to start releasing fire into that horde of enemy cav to help cut them down to size, so that's kind of my outflanking maneuver here. Across the front, my men are doing pretty well. I'd say my troops are on par with his. I did have some upgrades on my my conquistadors. I believe they had 3 experienced chevrons. I don't know how those chevrons really play into things, though, as I'm not very familiar with this game. Over here in the background, you can actually see my genets are going to come in for a hammer and anvil strike to try and demoralize these enemy conquistadors. They're not going to get much of a charge, just because they're light cav, but it will have a morale effect. You can see that these guys are wavering, and I'm going to try and charge them back out. I'm not very used to these controls, so I'm doing my best here. You can see my Jeanettes totally destroyed his heavy cavalry unit out there because he did not retreat them proper. Now I got a rout going on in the center. Looks like my men were able to hold the center, my conquistadors. And I'm winning kind of in this vicinity for the moment. But he's got more of these dismounted feudal knights coming in. And the heavy cav fight just like drags on and on and on because he's got these infantry in here as well. The heavy cav fights can take a long time in this game, I've noticed. You can see my archers are still firing in.
Badly blooded. They have lost half their men.
So yeah, I've got all my my archers still firing into this mess of guys, but all of them are quite heavily armored, so it's not going to be a super fast kill rate. All the while, my Jeanettes have caused more routs from their hammer and anvil strikes, and it's another reason why I like cavalry, or like light cavalry. They're swift, they are cheap, and they can do some effective harassment, and it looks like even on this game they're still fairly effective. I'm a big fan of them. So here I'm going to run in another hammer and anvil strike. I'll let you watch that.
The battle is in our favor. If we remain true and wholehearted, victory will be ours.
Alright, so there we go. I like cav hurling their javelins. It's all pretty cool, I guess. I'm not going to give Medieval too much credit because I really don't like this game. Although I'm sure some of you will be pleased that I'm giving it another chance. I'm not particularly thrilled with it, and there's very few people who play it online, so it makes finding a game very difficult, which is even more frustrating. Not that Empire Total War was any nicer to me. Of course, you'll see that battle next, as Empire is kind of the next one in the Total War series. So you can see that I'm about to cause just a full-on rout of the enemy troops. My Jeanettes caused the rout of the final pieces of some of his infantry over here. He does have a few more dismounted conquistadors, but I'm not going to stay in a fight with him. What's up with this guy? That's a pretty funny animation. Looks like we just killed the enemy general, who was probably fighting back here in this cav, I'm assuming. And again, you can see how long these heavy cavalry fights just sit here and slug it out for. I've still got all my archer fire pouring in there as well. And I'm going to work my Jeanettes all the way around in case I need to do a hammer and anvil strike here on his heavy cav and try and get rid of them. And I've also got my infantry moving in that direction. So here's all my infantry now freed up, charging towards the last remaining pocket of Spanish resistance. See my Jeanettes now in the background as well. And my opponent then admits defeat. So, good game to my opponent. I'm sure that I stink at this game. I was actually kind of surprised I was able to pull off a win. I was going to show you one way or the other, but I was using kind of, I guess, semi-sound strategy, albeit I didn't know what type of units to pick. My strategy was a well-balanced army with missiles and cav and infantry, spear and sword infantry, and then of course my light cavalry was used to distract a couple of his more expensive heavy cav units, and then it also affected quite a morale shock to his army by continued hammer and anvil strikes. I hope you enjoyed this footage. So that's the second part of my Total War eras. Let's go ahead and move on into the next era. Hey there, YouTube. Hey there, YouTube. Sorry, my microphone was up. Heir of Carthage here, coming to you from the Algeria map, where it is snowing lightly in North Africa. Yeah, I kind of got the weather wrong. My bad. Hope you can forgive me. So there you can see my Swiss Guard chilling out in this forest here. It looks like they are indeed hidden. I love the Swiss Guard, probably my favorite unit of all of Empire, but France as a whole isn't very good, unfortunately. You can see I actually have a unit of cavalry routing here. I was actually swinging them out to the flank. They got too close to these riflemen that my opponent are wielding. I came up and shot the riflemen with my chasseur cheval from the flank. I know you all don't like my French pronunciation, but you're just going to have to live with it. And I am going to get my shooter cav out of there. So let me introduce you to my army. I have 3 tire-lourds right up the center. I have, I believe it's 5 units of French line infantry. I have 2 units of cuirassiers, and I have my general's bodyguard. I have a 24-pound howitzer right here that is firing quick-line shot. I'll show you that here in a moment. Actually, I mean, now is as good a time as any, I think. Yeah, my 2 Swiss Guard in the woods, and then I have 2 Chevaux de Guerre Lancer. However you say it, I always say it wrong. Lancers aren't near as good on this game as they are in Napoleon, but I still kind of like to use them for quick charges sometimes, and they're also fast, which makes them useful. I mean, again, not hugely useful because they're a lot better on Napoleon. So my opponent is definitely taking up a defensive position on this hill. He has 4 or 5 riflemen. He has 4 of these horse artillery units, all 6-pounder. So he definitely has an artillery advantage. Then he has 4 superior line infantry. Here's one of them. And then he has 3 of these lifeguard of foot. So my opponent has 7 extremely high quality infantry units as opposed to my 7 with only 2 high quality of those. So my Lancers are back here. I'm trying to micromanage a lot of things. I do get confused a couple of times, but you can see me micromanaging my cav towards his general. I've got these 2 units out here around the flanks, and I am trying to make a hole in which to get to his artillery, and he is falling for this. Now, he played as Sweden, and he really should have brought some cav, as the Swedish can bring pretty large hordes of cavalry, and he would have easily been able to keep me from outflanking if he would have just brought regular Swedish infantry and some cav rather than spending all of his money on these high-quality infantry. So he does not have any cav other than his general's bodyguard, which is being shot to death by my chasseur-à-cheval, and in defiance of the French army, the Swedish general is going to sit here and stare forward and allow himself to be shot in the back. As I said, my opponent is busy trying to micromanage his troops into getting my cavalry, and you can see that I now have my Lancers with a couple of spots where I have a decent hole. I do not even care if I lose these Lancers, as long as they cause a little bit of disruption and damage. It's totally worth it to me. I still have 2 cuirassiers in the back, so I still have some cavalry power if needed. And yeah, I'm not the best at this game, and the controls were a little bit different. But eventually I start to try and manage my units a little bit better. Here, these Lancers are going to take off, as there's a nice clean shot straight into these horse artillery now. And then these Lancers are also going to take off towards this horse artillery. My opponent does see these guys, though, and he's trying to intercept. But by the time his men stop and line up to shoot, chances are my cavalry will be past them. So you can see that's what they're trying to do. This unit, however, has a better position. I do believe I end up charging them, though. And charging these guys head-on with Lancers isn't a bad idea, except for if you stop like I did right there. But there we go, I'm going to get the charge. So I killed almost 20 of those guys. The thing is, the Lancers have poor morale on the likely route. So he really shouldn't, he should have brought some cav so he could have kept my Lancers from causing that much damage to an expensive lifeguard unit. And then here he's losing his horse artillery. He lost his general, and he's now got 2 infantry units chasing my chasseur-à-cheval. You'll never catch cavalry with the infantry units unless your opponent makes a mistake, which I'm prone to doing. You can see this cavalry over here, this cavalry is getting shot to pieces, but I ruined his artillery piece. So now my opponent is about to have this artillery piece ruined. So he'll only have 1 artillery piece that's in any manner to fight. And I did lose some cav units, but it's kind of worth it because his whole idea of staying on the hill here was based around being able to hammer me with his artillery, which he no longer has. And then he just lost his riflemen here as well, so he's now lost his long range here in the center. You have to be careful because there's stakes here, but you can go through them in the opposite direction. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pull my cav out of there. You can see my tirailleurs opening fire. They're now in range of these enemy riflemen, and they're going to finish these guys off. Now, I saw the enemy riflemen here, and I wanted to hit them with my cuirassier. Unfortunately, cuirassiers are much fatter and slower than other cav, so he's going to have a little bit of time to react to this. But I just want to take these riflemen out of the fight, and that'll take any long-range advantage away from my opponent. He does have this hill, and that's going to give him quite a nice little advantage as it is. He did get a few shots off here, and he's got infantry to back them up. But again, this is just a delaying tactic. If you're a cavalryman in my army, chances are you're sacrificial, and Heir really doesn't care about your life. So, that's all a delaying tactic, because now I'm going to run the Swiss Guard up on his flank, and I'm going to take position on this little knobby hill and start firing down on his troops. Now, I thought he had all superior line infantry at this point. I didn't realize he had these lifeguards, so it's dangerous indeed. You can see these lifeguards are already down to 99 men. It seemed like there was, they have another unit here, riflemen, lifeguards down to 97, and these riflemen are down to 45, so I dented up his infantry pretty good. And I've still got 2 more units of cav sitting out here on the flanks that I'm saving for later. My main infantry body is marching forward up the hill now that I've cleared a path from which to attack, and my tirailleurs can lay down some long-range fire. However, this terrain is not really the best for super long-range fire. That's why I only brought 3 of these guys. You can see that they don't have the best shots. Now here they do have a good shot into the superior line infantry, but on this side of the battlefield, my opponent is going to be hidden by the terrain much better. However, I'll take whatever shots I can get towards his infantry that's up there on the hill. So my Swiss Guard didn't get there quite as quick as I hoped. I guess they'd been having a few too many Swiss chocolates. Slowed them down while they were running, perhaps. I don't know. But they did get here. They're a little bit tired now, though, of course, because they had to run up this hill. Can't say I blame them for that. Heir would probably be a lot more tired than they are. But these are fantastic troops. They have extremely good stats, and I would think that they're every bit equal to the Lifeguard afoot. You can see my quicklime taking effect right over here. I just killed a couple of the guys in this regiment of artillery. Eventually my cannons kind of like bug out and quit firing, which is kind of a nuisance, but that's what happens. Oh, I have a unit of Cheval. I bet I forget about it all the way to the end of the battle. Let's follow this quicklime shot here. Yeah, you can see it landed well short of the enemy artillery. So here's my Swiss Guard. They're lined up and firing with these riflemen, trying to knock them out of the fight. I don't believe his infantry is within range of me. Those guys were, so I've knocked them out. And then I've got this Swiss Guard here too that I'll be moving up shortly. Again, I was feeling pretty confident this moment. I really shouldn't have though, because my opponent does still have better infantry than I do, and I really need to focus my attack on a flank and knock out one of his flanks and then roll him up. I really shouldn't be assaulting straight up the center like I am, but I was feeling kind of overconfident. Here's my Swiss Guard going over the fence here. This is kind of like an interesting pathfinding error here. I clicked an attack order and they kind of get like all caught up on this fence. And so now they're all out of formation and it takes them forever to open fire. So that was a bad mistake. I should have just moved them on my own. And the same thing's kind of happening over here. These walls on this map cause some pathfinding errors from time to time, as you can see again right here. Fortunately though, my men do go ahead and just line up and start firing. These guys have extremely accurate fire, and they fire by platoon, just like all the Swedish infantry will be doing, because they're all basically guard infantry. The superior line aren't quite guard quality, but they're pretty darn good. But you can see these guys taking flank fire, and they're taking fire from the front. However, the fire from the front is going to be much less damaging. These French line infantry suck compared to those superior line. Alright, what else is going on? You can see me assaulting the top of the hill here. I've got my my tireleurs out here trying to knock out his last unit of riflemen. I was using my cav as a distraction. I struck way too early, and he's able to easily defeat them before my infantry can get there. And then I'm extremely close to his line infantry up here, which is probably not a good idea because he can just come down into melee and absolutely waste my regular line infantry. Now, these are lifeguards afoot, so this is a heavyweight shootout for sure between my Swiss Guard and his lifeguard afoot. Both of these are extremely good units. I'll show you from the other point of view. Here's the Swedish lifeguard afoot. You guys have some interesting hats, but then again, so do the Swiss Guard. So like I said, definitely a heavyweight slugfest here. Two very accurate, very powerful units. The Swiss Guard have excellent melee stats as well, though. I'm sure these lifeguards have good melee stats, but I want to say the Swiss Guard's one of the toughest units on the game. So I got good position up here and knocked down a lot of these superior line infantry, but here my opponent's going to make a smart move and just straight out melee charge with these lifeguard afoot, and these guys are going to shred my line infantry. So I really made a mistake pushing too far too fast. Should have used my long range to more advantage, because getting into a melee fight is going to spell disaster for my men, especially with these very good Swedish lifeguard afoot. So here you can see the bayonet fight going on. Like I said, his guys will easily win that. And he's going to reinforce here with more of these superior line infantry. I do have this unit, however, they're partly obscured by the terrain, so there's only so much damage their fire is going to do. This isn't like Shogun. They will actually fire into the dirt if you allow them to, which I am allowing them to. And I got this other unit caught in melee also, and they got easily routed by the superior line infantry. So I've actually kind of blundered it up over on the other flank, whereas on this flank I'm actually doing quite well. Although my regular line infantry units are taking a beating, my Swiss foot are still in this fight. And you can see that this unit of lifeguards is going to go ahead and charge in. He's going to try and keep this unit from firing. Not a bad strategy, but it's a little too late. So they're going to charge in, but my Swiss Guard will make short work of these guys. I'll let you watch this melee fight here. It's kind of cool. This game does have good graphics, although it's too bad that Empire came out like totally riddled with bugs and still has a lot of crashes and problems in multiplayer. But it is a fun game. If they sped up the speed of gameplay just a little bit, I think this game would probably be actually more fun to me than Napoleon, just because I like all the different unit selection. But Napoleon's not bad by any means. So yeah, my Swiss Guard are going to tear those guys up. I got my other unit of Swiss Guard moving up on this flank, but my opponent did beat me back here on the main hill, and I am going to have to call a retreat here in a moment with these guys, or else they're going to suffer the same fate as the other line infantry that was up here. So I'll let them fire off some volleys, and then eventually I'm going to retreat them. Like right there, I should have let him fire that last volley. But I'm trying to get away. I don't want these units to be able to melee rush me. My general is alive, albeit barely. Here he is. And I'm trying to keep him behind my men in order to keep my morale up. I'm worried if he dies that I'll lose the rest of my regular line infantry. My Swiss Guard, this one right here at least, is running very low on ammo, so they're not going to have too much more ammo left, and I don't actually realize they're out of ammo till the end of the fight, which is unfortunate. But they still do have some ammo for now, so they're going to go ahead and open fire. At least I certainly believe they do. There they go. So check this out, kind of a cool point-blank firefight here. I don't know why my men aren't firing. There they go. Yeah, you can see they kind of fire by platoon, moving down the line. And they are better than that superior line infantry, but here's what my opponent's going to try and melee rush me out of the fight because he knows that he has more units than I do. But these superior line infantry, despite their good positioning, are going to falter in melee combat against these Swiss Guard. And then this Swiss Guard unit still has 100 out of 120 and absolutely blasted out that superior line unit. But my right flank is not going to hold out forever against these better Swedish troops. He's got a life guard afoot and a superior line infantry laying down fire there. So I'm just trying to win over here for now. Again, you can see that his superior line infantry is going to get absolutely mopped up by my Swiss Guard. It's usually good to bring some type of guard unit in your army and place it in a critical spot like these guys I had on my left flank that made my left flank strong, gave me something to work with. You don't always have to do that, but I find it to be helpful. Yeah, stab him! Alright, so there goes a couple of more Swedish units out of the fight. He still has this lifeguard afoot that's nearly full strength up on the hill. However, they are exhausted. So if he does try a melee charge, it'll make them less useful. This lifeguard afoot is going to charge me in melee. I have a few more men than he does, but he's got better units here. I go ahead and give a counter-charge order in an attempt to try and get the best of this melee fight, but I'm not really expecting too much. So there's my French troops duking it out with those lifeguards afoot. Took them down, at least a few of them. And he's going to charge into melee down here as well, which is not really what I need, because I need my Swiss Guard to be opening fire on this lifeguard afoot. You can see that I did open fire on them, though, with both my units and caused a severe amount of damage to it before they were able to return a whole lot of fire. I think it is sometime soon when this unit runs out of ammunition. Since guards fire faster, they can run out of ammo faster. They'll pretty much fire in a non-stop sequence. So you can see as soon as that side finishes, these guys open fire. So they kind of lay down a constant barrage, which makes them very useful. And believe it or not, my French line infantry over here held the line against these lifeguard afoot. I'm not really sure why. It says they're very tired, and my men were winded, so I'm not really sure why my men end up doing well here, but they do end up staying in this fight, so I have to say I was proud of them here. Vive la France! Fight, men! Fight against your Swedish oppressors in Algeria. What? None of that makes sense whatsoever. I love Heir's ahistorical battles. It's tons and tons of fun. You can see these guys have 2 chevrons now, though, from all their killing. It's not bad. And at this point, the Swedish units rout, so I'm going to go ahead and fast forward. Good game to my opponent. That was kind of a drawn-out battle. I had to assault that hill there. It was pretty fun. My opponent had a nice defensive position. I think both of us are probably playing a bit noobish here, and I'm not trying to say that to be mean, because obviously I'm applying it to myself as well. I haven't played this game in a long time, and I wasn't real perfect at it to begin with. Take a look at the kills. Obviously my Swiss Guard leading the pack there. The rest of my units probably weren't all that impressive. Good game to my opponent. Hope you enjoyed that, and let's move on to the Napoleonic era. Alright, YouTube, welcome to the Napoleonic era of Total War. This was not my favorite battle, by any means. I kind of suck at this game, and always have, even though I was probably a little bit better at it when I'm sure he was playing it more often. But my opponent seemed to be pretty new at it, and I'm relatively unfamiliar with a lot of different things in the game, but this is the only battle that I have a chance to show you, so it's going to be what you get to see. Now, I started off with that lovely rain bug, but fortunately the rain bug went away. This battle is quite long because I had to march all the way across the map, which happens a lot in Total War games, it seems like, and Napoleon and Empire, it seems like it takes forever to march across the map. There's some of my howitzer shots landing home there. I've taken his experimental howitzer down to 12 men. Let me show you what we have as far as the armies go. I've got 4 Prussian Fusiliers. They're hiding behind these buildings for cover from experimental howitzer, except for these 2 units I'm venturing forth. I have 2 units of musketeers here. I've got 2 regular howitzer units there. I've got 4 Prussian foot guards to make up a tough component, and then I've got 2 more musketeers here. Then I've got 3 units of cav. I did not come cav heavy for this type of city fight. I've got hussars, lancers, and Lutzau's Freikorps. So yeah, all pretty cheap light cav, just want them for speed and maneuverability. My opponent has only brought 1 unit of cav, and it is the Guard Chasseurs à Cheval. And these guys are really good in melee, as well as being good in just about every other statistical area. And of course they can fire while mounted. Now my opponent set up like a general defense, wanting me to come attack him. Some of his positions though really don't make sense. He's got his men behind these buildings. So they're not going to be able to hit anything, neither of these guys. He definitely should have guarded the crossings if he wanted to play defensive. He could put some men at each crossing, and that would have been a much better strategy. I mean, there's ways that I could have gotten around that, but you can see that I'm just simply marching right across the river while laying down covering fire with my howitzers. My opponent has no way to get after my howitzers. So it's going to give me pretty much free reign to cross the river as I please. Plus I have my cav back here. If he starts to make too many infantry movements, I can slow him down. I'm going to try and do some skirmishing right here in the center. The terrain is not very favorable, so most of my shots will miss. But I do actually get a good number of kills right here in these Fusiliers in the line. These units down here in the bottom are firing as well. I get some kills, but my morale is bad. And let's see, where is it? I got the Brave right here. There's some old guards somewhere in this vicinity, I believe. Yeah, right here. I don't know if it's these guys causing it, but these old guard will scare nearby units. It's probably the howitzers that were making the morale of my skirmishers bad, though. Alright, so you can see that I've been able to push all my infantry through this choke point unopposed, which my opponent should not have let happen. And I'm going to go ahead and fast forward here because it's just kind of more skirmishing back and forth. Here in a moment, I believe, I'm kind of repositioning my artillery into a better spot. Although my artillery doesn't become super necessary because my opponent, his men, what do you call it? They left their artillery sitting here, and they never remanned it, so they just sat there. My opponent was very static throughout the entire fight. And I'm not trying to say that to be mean, it's just the truth. He really shouldn't be this static, it's very bad. And considering that I'm not a very good player at this game, he likely would have won if he would have taken up just a few better defensive points. So I'm going to do some skirmishing with this unit down here. Try and lay some fire down in this direction. I think they're firing at the wrong target, though. I think they're firing towards this target, because they do have line of sight shot there, but it's not uncommon for the auto fire to do that kind of stuff to you. It's like I've got my musketeers here facing off against his light infantry. That's all he has on this flank is light infantry and militia. And I'm going to take advantage of that fact that he can't form square by charging in with these hussars. Definitely a throwaway unit, but it can cause a lot of damage here and save me a lot of casualties. So here those hussars come. I'm going to launch some of these chasseurs. This is going to prevent them from firing and really bust their morale up. My opponent did not shift any infantry over here to support, which was a big mistake. He could have shot my hussars down, although he would have still taken a lot of losses. So my hussars are going to just completely run amok behind his lines because he's not really doing anything about it. So I see another light infantry unit, these Voltigeurs. I'm going to charge them, and all that's in this vicinity is a militia unit, which also cannot form square and is vulnerable to cavalry. So like I said, I'm just going to let my hussars run amok here and kind of break a path for me so that I won't be under fire while I approach. So you can see my musketeers made short work of those infantry, especially since he never really turned to face me very well. And then these units right here have not turned to face me either. So these guys are going to get mowed down as well. It's a unit of chasseurs. And I think here towards the last second, he turns them to fire at my cavalry, but then they rout. And then my cav, I'm going to charge them down and hit these howitzers and line infantry in the back. That way I can make an advance here in the center of town. So I'm kind of using the tactic of messing up his defensive formation a little bit, allowing my men to move forward while taking less fire. So check out my hussars just launching these guys everywhere. It's pretty funny. And then you can see my men moving forward here to take position. I'll push the spacebar there so you can see where they're going to take position. I like using cavalry in Empire and Napoleon Total War in order to run disruption and help get your infantry into a better position. I think that's one of the best uses for it. You can see that my opponent's left flank is just completely shattered, and they're routing. I attempted to take down his guard, Chasseurs à Cheval. It killed one of my cav units. My lancers are nearly dead, and I charged it from two different directions. And then my general is in there now, and he's also under threat. These guys are tough in a melee. My light cav was not much of a match for him. I should have used my infantry to help take him down. But it's okay, because my opponent doesn't have any cav to threaten me with at this time. I forgot about these 2 Prussian Fusiliers. I leave them back here towards the end of the battle. Shows you how good my micromanagement is. So my opponent tried to retreat here, but he's surrounded. I've got musketeers here. They're going to start mowing these guys down. And my musketeers and Fusiliers are lined up over there. They're going to start mowing into these guys as well. So these guys are going to be taking an atrocious amount of fire from all directions. For some reason the sound is kind of bugged out there. So he's going to charge into melee, try and make the best. This is the Brave, the line infantry. So they're a little bit better than typical line infantry, but their morale is kind of beat up, and these guys aren't going to be able to make that melee charge and survive. So no matter how brave they are, they're going to die bravely. So there's some sweet close-up melee action. You can see the French line infantry routing there. And then whatever troops he had in this corner too have also routed. So now it's just a matter of trying to move my men up. I see this position up here. It's not necessarily the best firing position, but I can fire down into the backs of these men. And then I'll move one unit right here to fire down this corridor. And then my Prussian Fusiliers are kind of laying some fire down into this corridor here. So this is kind of a in the middle of the city type fight, and my opponent's all boxed up, and I now have excellent positions from which to fire at him. And his army can't effectively fight back because he's all bunched up. He should have had a plan to probably guard the crossings, and then if I did bust my way through, he should have retreated back to this hill where he could make a better stand. That would be what I would have done. So here's my foot guards. They're going to open fire on some of these militia. Not really much of an opponent. And the French have a unit of chasseurs there as well. Also not much of an opponent for a foot guard. They easily rout them. I brought 4 of these units of foot guards expecting a much stiffer resistance, so I wanted some units that could really shoot it out and hang in there with their morale and help inspire the rest of my army, as I did not bring a historical general. Now here my opponent charged the old guard into melee combat with my men, so he's definitely going to get the better of this engagement. His old guard will absolutely mop the floor with my men. And even with me charging in the second unit, it's not necessarily likely that I will take these old guard down in melee. They have a morale effect that scares my men. Let's see if it says it right here. Well, so they do scare nearby units. My Fusiliers have a good position right here in the center of town, though, and they're going to just sit here and duke it out point blank and rout those line infantry. And then my other units have taken up position up here on the ledge, and I was firing into the backs of those old guard before they ran behind that building. A few of these guys still have a little bit of a line of sight. And the rest of my troops are now running around this edge of town, and we're going to take up position behind the French forces. There's another unit of militia up here to oppose us. Of course, it's not going to be any match for the foot guards. I believe I just charged them in melee. Again, most of my opponent's forces here are still static, and he has not realigned them. That is my howitzers firing in. I'm trying to take out his general, which is right here. He just brought a regular general staff as well. There is his general. So yeah, my howitzer fire is going to be pouring in there, and his men are trying to defend this corridor back here. His old guard mopped the floor with my men, much as I suspected, and at this point I remembered these Prussian Fusilier units as well. Alright, so like I said, this wasn't really my favorite battle just because my opponent was too static. Kind of made it too easy for me. But at least you get to see the graphics and get to see the game. That's kind of the point because of this video that I'm doing. Right here, he charged my old guard in melee with his militia and another unit of his line infantry. These guys will get absolutely thrashed. They're charging uphill against superior units, and it is not going to go well for them. So there you can see the French troops getting beaten back. The militia unit, of course, broke almost immediately. And then my men are going to start lining up in order to take shots at the remaining French infantry. And I am repositioning my troops to try and take advantage of this. Now, he does have this unit of old guard that continued to chase my routing units. He did not notice what was going on there. Again, my opponent's micro was quite slow. I'm not trying to be mean, it's just the honest truth. And here comes my Lancer unit that's nearly depleted, but I'm going to go ahead and charge these old guard and just try and slow these guys down and rout them maybe while he's not paying attention. But then they turn around, so I'm going to run my Lancers out of there because they will die very quickly in that type of fight. I'm going to try and lure them back into the waiting arms of this Prussian Fusilier unit that I'm now lining up in this choke point, so that hopefully I can shoot that old guard down as it comes through the choke point. Let's see, the rest of the fight over here, my opponent once again just charged in the melee blob. which is obviously going to fail against my superior troops. You can see his men are now going to mass rout. And so here the French are going to beat a hasty retreat, and my men are going to pretty much hunt them mercilessly and kill them as they try to escape. So yeah, that's pretty much the fate of the remaining French. Here these guys are running away in their column. I believe we have another militia unit and a fusilier line. They're getting shot at by my my foot guards, and now I'm just going to chase the rest of these guys down. I'm not going to let the French get away and regroup. Not that I really expect them to be effective if they did. And then the last remaining unit is this old guard, which he is now marching back towards town. They're very tired, though, from all the running, so these guys are practicing for cross-country, and here they're going to start getting shot at. And this is going to be the last unit that he has on the field. You can see that their scaring morale thing still has an effect on my men, even though the battle is pretty much won for me. So lower morale units will definitely suffer around a unit like the old guard. Again, not my favorite battle, but hope you enjoyed it. That's Napoleon Total War, so now we move on to the last and latest era of Total War, which will be Shogun 2. And I have a good battle for you there. So hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you on Shogun 2. Hey there, YouTube. Heir of Carthage here, finally rounding out this exhausting process that I decided to start of filming a battle on all 5 Total War games that I own. I do not own the original version of Medieval or the original version of Shogun, so I cannot show you anything on those. Plus, there's pretty much no way that I would have a multiplayer battle on those, as I'm not even sure that it was still supported, unless you got on like a LAN or something. So, in any case, we are going to round out, like I said, this Total War era video that I made for you. This is on the Alpine Ridge. I do believe that my opponent is also a member of my Heir of Carthage fans clan. And man, my gosh, this has been a long evening of trying to get you all these battles, so I hope you enjoy this. I was not real thrilled about the Napoleon and Empire videos that I came across, or the battles that I came across, but it was kind of hard to find battles, and the medieval one for that matter. It's hard to find the battles, and oh my goodness, it takes so long to do all this, and it's going to take forever to render and upload, so please just appreciate. I'm not claiming that it's going to be the greatest battles, I just thought it might be cool to see in 1 or maybe 2 videos, depending on how to upload it, a battle from all the Total War games where you can play online. So I thought you would enjoy that and make something special, plus some of you are sick of seeing Shogun 2, so this will also have included the other Total Wars. Let's take a look at my army. I am rushing towards the ridge, trying to get a good position. My army is rather diversified. I've got my 2 awesome Yari Cav. They're both 8 to 9 chevron. They're not really, I mean, they're good. You can see their stats here, but they're good for Yari Cav, and they're good against other Yari Cav and Katana Cav, and also good against Monk Cav. They're terrible against Great Guard, and will get absolutely pwned. I have brought the very controversial Heavy Gunners in order to show these guys off. So here they are. My Heavy Gunners already have 4 chevrons, and you'll find out why. It's because they're like genocidal maniacs because they can get so many kills. Right here I have a unit of Bow Samurai, and then right here I have my another of the DLC units. This is the Hattori unit, which of course you don't have to be Hattori to use in multiplayer. This is the Bandits, and I called them Crouching Archer Hidden Pain. Not real creative, but hey, it's a name. And then over here I've got another unit of Bow Samurai. Trying to check out my other units. I believe I have several units of non-veteran Yari Ashigaru up the center. They're just to protect my my missile units and the rest of my swords. Yep. I got my bow hero here, which is Shinto snipers, then Apache. I've got a couple of, I think 2 or 3 of my katana veterans. Yeah, it looks like I have 3 of my katana samurai veterans. I got katana Uface, Slash and Trash, and Apache Slashies, and then I have 2 units of non-veteran Lone Sword Ashigaru. So I have quite a few cheap infantry units, and that's just to bolster my numbers. And then my real power is in my skirmishing. So I've got 4 units of bows, and 1 unit of heavy gunners. So let's take a look. My opponent has this light cav unit. I'm sure he's brought this to just try and get a good charge into my missile units, and it is a cheap way to take out expensive missile units if you get the right position. I've got a meat shield of spears, kind of like I used against Prussian French, and like he used against me. And this is to help protect my bow samurai until I get them within range of his bow warrior monks. And the bow samurai and these bandits are going to be a cheaper way to take out a very expensive skirmish unit. He's got 2 9 chevron bow warrior monks, Both of them have 200 range, extra ammunition. He's got a unit of matchlock warrior monks as well that I'm shooting. I'm going to try and take these guys out of the fight early. And look what my heavy gunners have done already. Completely wasted this light cav unit. The morale busting effect, plus the shots have completely routed it before it could even touch my men. Now, a regular matchlock unit would also be capable of that in the right position, so I don't really think that's the best showing of them yet, but you'll get to see exactly how powerful those guys are. Now, my bow hero is targeted on this other bow monk unit. I'm just trying to take these guys out of the fight. They can cause a lot of damage, they have a lot of ammunition, and they can ruin my heavy gunner unit, which I'm going to be relying on to help get me some kills. Bow monks are the best counter to the heavy gunner unit, as they far outrange it, and they can kill it very quickly with arrows, so 9 chevron bow warrior monks are an extreme danger when you're hoping that your heavy gunners can get you some kills. Now, I've already seen a lot of conversations going on my channel about whether or not the heavy gunners are fair. Are they overpowered? Absolutely. But here's the redeeming thing. They cost a lot of koku. I believe mine cost over 1,200 koku with the upgrades I've given them, so that helps. They're only 60 men strong. They're vulnerable to arrows, which outrange them. And like I said, I mean, they're not... Once you get a hold of these guys with arrows, they'll go down fast. So if you used bow cav or something else, it would help. So here my heavy gunners are going to open fire over the tops of my guys' heads, and just look at them shred these cav. And you might be saying, Air, how the crap do they shred the cav like that? It's because they... Yeah, check that out. Every last one of them dead. Their shots have an armor-piercing effect. And when I say armor-piercing, not just regular armor-piercing, because matchlock don't usually have anything to do with armor. They will shoot through multiple targets. So one bullet can pass through multiple enemies. So that's what happens there, and that's what makes the heavy gunners so incredibly dangerous, is their ability to shoot through multiple enemies. Now my opponent is retreating what's left of his bow warrior monks and his matchlock warrior monks. He wants to keep those guys in the fight, but I definitely did well in the skirmish fight. I even shattered one of his units, and I still have some bows left over. Not a whole bunch. I took a lot of damage, but taking 2 9 chevron bow warrior monks out of the fight while I still have handgunners on the field, or heavy gunners, is going to really strengthen my position, and it can force my opponent to charge me in a position that he doesn't want to be in. So my opponent played very well, and he's playing well. It's just that he didn't have enough skirmishing units, and I kind of went with crap quality skirmishing units other than my bow hero, but lots of them, and that's one way that you can overcome those 9 chevron bow warrior monks. And I also caused damage to his matchlock monks, so they've taken some damage. However, they're most certainly not out of the fight yet. And here I'm just going to start taking pot shots at these Waco Raiders. They're not going to be very well armored. They do have some armor. This is another DLC unit. They can actually hide anywhere on the battlefield, but because he's got them in this position, I can see them. So you can see my bow fire hitting these guys. Kind of interesting unit. So you get to see several DLC units in this, and I will try and show you all of them soon. However, I can tell you, I don't know if you all remember Alsonl. I played him in the Gamer Dudester commentary tournament. If you go check out his channel, which I'll put a link to in the description, he has a video up showing all of the DLC units, and they kind of test them out and show you, so I'll give you a link to that if you want. And I will be showing them all eventually, but it's going to take some time because there's 10 of them, and I haven't used them all in just one battle. Now I heard my heavy gunners firing a moment ago. I believe I was taking some shots at these bow monks. But you can see that those bow monks only got a few shots, but they easily just killed 7 of my heavy gunners, and I had to run away. So he's definitely using the remainder of his bows to try and take out my heavy gunners, because he knows that they can easily turn the favor of this battle. And all the while, like I said, I'm going to continue taking as many shots as I can get at my opponent's infantry and try and force him forward, as I would rather play kind of passive-aggressive in this battle. I'm not going to just sit still necessarily and let him charge. Well, I will let him sit still and charge my Yari-Ashigaru, but the rest of my units I want to be able to counter-charge with. So I'm kind of playing passive-aggressive, which is trying to draw my opponent into a position he doesn't want to be in. Now he's got a Great Guard unit out here. I'm going to pull my Yari Cap back, try and get a better position. I do not want to tangle with those Great Guard one-on-one with my Yari Cav, as I will lose. I don't think I showed you all my opponent's infantry. He's got 2 Katana Samurai here, both with excellent upgrades. And then right here he's got another Katana Samurai with excellent upgrades. He's got this Matchlock Warrior Monk. He's got 2 Lone Sword Ashigaru and some Waco Raiders. These Waco Raiders are actually pretty good units. They've got a lot of men in the unit, and they can actually probably take a Katana Samurai just head on. Plus, they can hide anywhere on the battlefield. My opponent did not do so with them, but they kind of have like the ability to deploy anywhere on the battlefield and hide. So definitely an interesting unit. And it'll kind of make the Mori more interesting also whenever you have to play in classic battles. So here comes the charge of my opponent's fodder units. He wants to bring these guys in first. And then he's going to hope to bring in his heavy grinding infantry and his matchlocks to try and finish this fight. So there's my Yari Ashigaru holding the line in Spear Wall. They won't last forever though. They're not upgraded. Not all that good of units. And let's take a look. Out here on the other flank. Let's see, I thought he had his Great Guard out here. I may have just killed them. I can't tell if that's a Great Guard unit or if that's the same unit I destroyed earlier. Alright, so he's bringing his other Great Guard unit around here. He may go after my general. I have to protect Patchy, so I pulled both my Yari Cav to this vicinity. And I'm going to charge that Great Guard now that I have both my Yari Cav and I have the Spear unit. I'm going to peel off in that direction. The Spear unit will be more helpful than either one of my Yari Cavs. But this Spear unit's going to move slowly, and my Yari Cav's going to take a bit of a beating. Although I have to say they really did get a good jump on these guys. I was surprised. I'm going to pretty easily take them down. Now the infantry fight is totally even in the center, and then my opponent has his Matchlock Warrior Monks right here taking shots, but I just heavy gunned his general unit and did some massive damage to his general. But now I need to reposition my heavy gunners. He's got a Great Guard and a Katana Cav coming, but his Great Guard don't really have the best position. They end up snagging on my swords here, and they're going to get stuck momentarily. My archers are still firing at his bow monks, who are trying to take shots at my heavy gunners. I barely got my Yari Cav out of that other fight in time. I'm going to stop these Katana Cav, and I've also realigned my heavy gunners to put some supporting fire in there. Except I don't really want to kill all my own Cav. So I'm going to realign here and try and take some shots at these Great Guard that are coming in. And look how fast I wipe out that Great Guard unit, even with a depleted unit of heavy gunners. Just completely annihilate them. You cannot charge a heavy gunner unit from the front. You just can't do it. You shouldn't do it, and you should always bring enough bows that you can take down heavy gunners if necessary. Now I'm going to turn and open fire on his infantry. My opponent has been firing on my infantry as well, though, with his matchlocks. But I'm going to try and silence them right here. I'm going to charge through the center. They're mid-volley. My men do get hung up a little bit, but I do believe I'm going to go ahead and plow on through and now prevent his Matchlock Warrior Monks from firing. So now I'm going to have the morale advantage that I will have Matchlocks firing and he will not. He brings his Bow Warrior Monks into melee with them to try and keep them from firing, although I do believe my men would easily win that melee fight. But you can see the morale effect that those heavy gunners had. Those few volleys were enough to rat out the remainder of his army, and then I was able to take down his general unit, basically, and his Matchlock Warrior Monks. So good game to my opponent. It was a tough fight. It's just that I think I demonstrated there the morale-busting power the heavy gunners can have. A lot of you have been complaining about them. I kind of enjoy using them, but they're the only Matchlock unit I bring when I use them because they are incredibly powerful. I don't bring any Matchlock units in conjunction with them. But I've played against people who are using them, and I've countered them easily with bows. You have to sometimes even sacrifice your bows to take out the heavy gunners. And that's kind of a strategy. Now, if you want to use the heavy gunners and you don't want them to get taken out by enemy bows, your best bet is to hide them somewhere and bring them out at the critical moment in the battle whenever your opponent does not really believe that you have them. I will bring you more DLC units as I can. Some of you have asked me what I think of the DLC. I like the units. I think it kind of livens things up. For those of you who don't have the DLC, some of you say we don't have it. If you can somehow get a hold of a credit card, I think it's only about $2 American, maybe $3, so it shouldn't cost too much to get it. But yeah, it kind of would give your enemies some good units, but it's not units that you can't beat. There's definitely a way to counter all the units that come in that DLC with the regular units that were in the game. So that's what I think of the DLC. I'm glad CA gave it to us. Hope you enjoyed this Total War era video. We end here on the latest one. Heir of Carthage signing off for now, and I'll be back in the near future with more videos for you.